Are we live? We're live. Live on YouTube. Welcome from me. Welcome to the London Buddhist Centre. My name's Sthiramanas. And yes, we're down here in the basement shrine room here at the London Buddhist Centre. And it's our Tuesday night class. So I'm here with Jahit, who's doing our tech. I'll get Jahit to... he's typing away rapidly. I'll get him to come and give you a wave so you can meet Jahit. Jahit's one of our stalwarts on the team, knows exactly what he's doing with this strange array of sort of boxes and swivelly cameras and cables and things that we are sitting here on a variety of yoga blocks and other professional-like equipment. It's Jahit and I here tonight, and we're doing, this is a part of this series that we're doing on the Metta Bhavana. So some of you may have been with us for the last couple of weeks. So this is the third out of a four-part series that we're doing on the Metta Bhavana, but it will stand very much alone, so don't worry if you haven't been here yet. So a bit of a sense of what we'll do tonight is... I'll just say a little bit more about the Metta Bhavana and the series that we're doing. I'll just keep it quite brief, but just to give a bit of a sense of that, especially if you've not done the practice before. And then we'll do a short meditation. Then I'll say a little bit more about the theme for tonight. So there's some things that I'd like to say that we'll then explore with a fuller meditation. We'll do the whole of the Metta Bhavana practice together. And then there'll be time at the end for some questions. So I'd really encourage you as we're practicing together and as you're listening to the input that I give about the Metta Bhavana, do have a think of anything you'd like to ask. Anything to do with what I'm saying, but also anything to do with meditation or the Metta Bhavana practice generally. And that gives me a chance to sort of get a sense of where you're at and what you want to know and try and respond directly to that. So that's a bit of a sense of the shape of tonight. So... Yes, just a quick sort of recap of what we've been doing. So we've been exploring the real fundamentals of the Metta Bhavana meditation practice. So the Metta Bhavana is one of two main meditation practices that we teach here at the London Buddhist Centre. The other is the mindfulness of breathing, which is much more like what I imagined meditation would be when I started, so paying attention to the breath. And this is the Metta Bhavana. So it's a real perfect balance to the mindfulness of breathing. It brings in a whole other type of meditating, if you like. So what we're doing in the Metta Bhavana is we're trying to cultivate bhavana, metta, which is often translated as loving kindness. In a way, any words you translate it as are slightly too weak. Metta in itself is something quite profound, something that encompasses all living beings, a sense of understanding and love for all living beings, all that lives. So that's a pretty grand aim. And we're just working on slowly cultivating that quality in our mind. So it takes place over 5 stages. I'll give you a very quick summary of them. In the first stage, we're cultivating metta towards ourselves, towards our own relationship to our experience. We might be using these phrases, may I be well, may I be happy, may I be free from suffering, may I make progress. So we're cultivating an intention, we're cultivating a volition towards our own well-wishing. We're wishing ourselves well. We're coming into a relationship to our experience that is sort of encouraging. And then we start to bring people to mind. So that's a bit different to what we might have done in other types of meditation, but we're actually bringing people into our meditation so that we can see what that's like, how that affects our experience, and try and turn our own reaction to that, our own response to that, towards the positive. So we first of all bring a good friend to mind, and then we try and cultivate metta towards them. We wish them well, we wish that they're happy, that they're free from suffering, that they can make progress. These deep sort of wishes that we all have. So those 2 stages have been explored over the last couple of weeks. Kshantikara was exploring the first stage of metta towards ourselves, and Mahamani was then exploring metta towards a good friend. Tonight I'm going to be exploring the third and fourth stages, where in the third stage, we cultivate metta towards somebody who's sort of neutral, which is the majority of people in our lives, the people that we pass on the street, the people we work with that we don't feel very strongly for in either direction. Our tendency is just to be sort of indifferent. There are so many people that most of them we just don't care about very much, frankly. So it's a case of just coming into a relationship with somebody that we don't feel very much for. Overcoming indifference, in a way, that's the main object, and I'll say more about that in a bit. And then the fourth stage, we bring to mind an enemy. We bring to mind somebody that we have difficulty with, somebody that when they come into our mind, it's likely that we'll sort of recoil slightly. So that's slightly stronger medicine. So we've built up to it by we've built up a certain amount of momentum in the practice, and at this point we can really give our capacity to love a challenge. So again, I'll be talking a bit more about that. It's another challenge to our empathy that goes a bit further than overcoming the indifference of somebody who we feel neutral about. And then that's all building towards the fifth stage, which is where we are bringing to mind all those same people, all four, trying to cultivate metta equally towards all of them, and then allowing that sense of an equal affection to sort of expand out to include more and more beings, ultimately all sentient beings. So that's the sort of dynamic of the meditation. That's where it's aiming by the fifth stage. So I'll remind us of the stages when we do it, but that's probably all I'll say in sort of summary. Yes, in a sec I'll say more about the third and fourth stages. But before we do that, it's just really good to think about meditation from a space of meditation. So it's really important that we get in touch with our own meditation first. So I'll guide us in a short meditation to begin with. We won't do the Metta Bhavana full. I'll just sort of guide us in an awareness exercise that starts to lead us towards the kind of territory we're going to be going into when we do the Metta Bhavana later on. So let's take a moment just to get yourselves set up to meditate. So I've got a stool that I sort of kneel on. You might have cushions or a stool or something like that, or you may just have a chair, and that's fine. But the main thing, especially if you're sitting on a chair, is that you can be upright and sort of alert and not slumped back into an armchair or anything like that. And you also will want to make sure that you have your hands supported. So I have a scarf that I wrap around my waist, and then I can sort of have like a little cradle for my hands. Or you might find a cushion or a pillow or something like that you can put your hands in. And that's really good because it stops your shoulders sort of slumping forwards and getting into a bad posture. It helps you keep upright. Okay. And closing your eyes. And the first thing we're doing is just trying to straight away meet our experience. Just trying to notice what's actually going on. And we start in the body. And a good way to start with that is feeling all the places where you make contact with the chair or the ground. You don't need to picture the chair or the ground, just experience that area. All the sensations of pressure, perhaps temperature, It can be quite reassuring to feel this area that we're sort of supported by the ground. And you can just let more and more of your weight be taken. You don't need to hold your body up in the same way. You can just let the weight of your body sink down into this area. And allowing your spine to just rise up naturally, not having to hold it in position. And you might notice if you're holding any tension in the large muscles of the thighs or the buttocks. Often we're habitually bracing as if ready to get up and run away. Just drawing your awareness into that experience of holding on, of tension. Not trying to change it, just becoming more sensitive to it. And it might just let go a little bit. Or even a lot. Now drawing your awareness up into the area of the belly. Tuning in to all the sensations in the belly. Often we're slightly clenching our belly. Feeling into that and allowing it to let go naturally. And drawing your awareness up into your shoulders. Often we're holding our shoulders up towards our ears. In a way that if we really pay attention to what that's like is quite painful, tender. Really just experiencing that. Know that you just don't need to do that right now. You can just let your shoulders go and roll down your back. And now bringing your awareness up into your face and your scalp, all around your head. See if you're holding on at all. Might feel like you're pulling your skin sort of up and over the top of your head, and see if you can just allow it all just to settle. Allowing your brow to unfurrow, smooth out. Noticing if you're holding on with your jaw at all. And if you're gripping in your throat, really feeling into that area in the throat. And if it feels constricted at all, you could just imagine some more space opening up in that area. Letting your awareness drop down into the area of your heart. This area right in the center of your chest. Just being interested in what's there. it feel kind of coarse or smooth? Is it more open and expansive? Or perhaps it's feeling quite tight and closed? It doesn't matter right now, just experiencing whatever that's like. Allowing your awareness to expand, stretching your awareness through the whole of your body. Becoming aware of the whole of your experience. All the sensation and feeling in that whole area. Just opening to it all. Any tension or tightness that you notice rising up, bringing that into awareness and allowing it to soften. Now letting go of any effort that you're making. Just remaining still with your eyes closed and absorbing the meditation. You lower the lights, Joy. Okay. So, yeah, that was just in a sense what we were doing there was we were really establishing the basis for everything else that we're doing in the Metta Bhavana. So, the real fundamental with this meditation practice is that we keep coming back to our direct experience, and we do it all in relationship with a sort of interested, receptive awareness of our experience. Our experience is the body is a good place to start because it's very sort of direct. We can feel our body, but all the kind of the feelings that come with that they go quite deep and they can get quite subtle. We can get more and more interested in following those threads, and we might even notice that we can experience in a felt way our mental states as well, what our mind is like. That all sort of happens in the same pool of experience. So in a way, that's what we were trying to really do, and we particularly notice our emotional experience. And we particularly experience our relationship with others in the area around the heart and in the area around the belly as well. So they're a really good place to kind of centre in this practice when we start bringing other people to mind. So yes, although we're mainly exploring the Metta Bhavana, what we were just doing then feels like it's the real foundation for that. Because as we start to bring people to mind, it's very tempting to sort of start getting into sort of picturing people or thinking about them or going off into a story or something. And really, we need it all to be happening right up close to our direct experience. So, so I want to say a little bit more about the third and fourth stages of the Metta Bhavana that I introduced. So these stages of the neutral person and the enemy. So, in a sense, it's where we start to have to perhaps work a little bit harder, because just coming into contact with our experience is, if not always easy, is at least quite straightforward what we're doing. We're coming into relationship with our experience, our relationship to ourselves in that experience. Then we bring to mind a friend, and if we don't suddenly realise in meditating that actually they've really bothered us in some way, which sometimes happens, if they are just a friend and we've got quite a nice straightforward relationship to them, we probably will start to feel warmth, we'll start to feel metta towards them, which is why it's a really good place to start, because it just gets the ball rolling, and that's really great. When we start to get into a neutral person and even an enemy, it's a bit less our natural mode to just be overflowing with metta when we think of them. So we need to need to do a little bit more. Recently, my mum was in hospital. Her appendix burst, and she was in hospital for a week, and which was sort of quite scary for me and my dad, and also for her. And at one point, I was able to go to visit her in hospital. I didn't know if that'd be possible to visit her in hospital, but it was, and it was really, really lovely. Partly because it became clear that she was starting to get better and she was out of a more sort of dangerous patch. But also she was just in, because she'd sort of been through a real experience, she was just thrown wide open. She was so full of positivity, she was so full of gratitude towards the nurses there. She was very moved by some conversations that she'd had in people in the beds next to her, aware of the remarkable things hospitals. There's so much going. There's life and death, and the stakes are sort of so high all around you. People working so hard, and in her relationship to that, coming out of an experience where her own life was hanging much more in balance, was one of sort of opening up. Like, she seemed emotionally much larger than I'd seen her before, which meant that the time that we spent together was, I'll always remember it. I think she was in a state that I'd not quite experienced her in before, where she was just sort of blown wide open. So I think that this experience of sort of cultivating metta is very much like that. It's one of it's not just that we're doing it because it's good to like people and it's good to remember that other people are people too, and it's good that puts us into better relationship with people. It's good that may make us more generous, it may make us more understanding, it may make us these things, but also it's good for us. Like as our mind expands, the first thing it does is take into account other beings. It opens up to other people much, much more. And the experience of that is having more life, more, one's consciousness is just bigger. There's a sense of more meaning, there's a sense of more coming into being. And I think that often it's really sort of key moments in life that open that up for us, like my mum being in hospital. For her, that was just a real shock. She's always been very lovely and generous and so on, but that just sort of got thrown wide open, and there was much more of it there, and she was much more aware of other people. So we're trying to sort of replicate something of that in this practice. We're trying to connect ourselves with other people, and one way of doing that, in fact the way of doing that, I think, is just to recognise our similarities. Is to recognise perhaps not even the similarities that might first come to mind, like, oh, they're a similar age, or we grew up in the same sort of place, or we both like cricket, I don't know, but like the real essential similarities. So I mentioned these phrases that we say in the practice, and I think that that's what they're getting to. So we say, we bring someone to mind, and we say to ourselves, we say to them in our mind, may you be well, may you be happy, may you be free from suffering, may you make progress. So when we started the meditation practice, we said those towards ourselves. So we start in the first stage of the Metta Bhavana by really just connecting with this longing that we have to be happy. We all do. That's one thing we absolutely all share. We really want our life to be fulfilling. We want to make progress in it. We want to be healthy and well. We want to be feeling alive and energetic, and we don't like it when we're not. We really don't want to suffer. We really don't want bad things to happen. We really want things to go our way. We really want we really don't want life to feel like it's slipping between our fingers. We don't want to experience physical pain. We don't want to experience loss. And if we really tune into that, we can feel that sense of that sort of longing. It's like us at our most deeply human. We really want to be happy, and we really don't want to suffer. And we're sort of being motivated by that all the time. All of our actions are generally somewhere motivated by that sort of twin pull, a sort of push away from suffering and a pull towards happiness. But we might not feel it very keenly. So in the first stage, we're just really, really tuning into what that's like. This essential sort of human longing to be well and happy. And everyone's doing that. Everyone's doing that all the time. And we can meet people on that level. We can identify with people on that level. We go about it all sorts of different ways. Some of the ways that some people, or some of the ways that all of us go about trying to make ourselves happy are really not very successful. They're not the things that are going to make us happy. We might look for a short burst of pleasure that actually later will leave us feeling a bit empty. We may sometimes feel like what will really give us that kind of kick is some revenge or something, whereas actually long term that's going to be hurting us. So what we do in pursuit of that sort of longing doesn't always work very well, and that's just what other people are doing. So particularly when I think of somebody who I really don't like, say that they've done something that I find quite hurtful, that's why I really don't like them. It's possible to just realise that underneath all that, and underneath all the sort of particularities, they just really want, they also have this same innate experience of just really longing to be happy and really not wanting to suffer. And that will be there underneath their motivation somewhere as well. And so I think that's our key in this practice. There's a teacher called Dharmadippa who I really like, who likes to go on about how this practice is actually really, really easy. He's German, and he sort of says, it's so easy. All you need to do is realise that you're happy and don't want to suffer, and then you realise that other people want to be happy and don't want to suffer. And that's it. And part of me is like, no, actually, I find it quite hard, actually. But it is true. It is sort of as simple as that. And but there's so much to get under often, isn't there? So I seem to be talking more about the enemy, but often there's things that there's the particularities of the situation. There's this thing that they did, and we need to step out of the picture. We need our own desire to be happy and not to suffer, which this person seems to be getting in the way of. We need to sort of let go of something like that, and instead draw our awareness into their experience. Yeah, so we're stepping out of ourselves and realizing that actually, on this essential level, we're the same. And in terms of the neutral person, it's often more a challenge of the fact that we're just not that interested. So for both of them, I think the challenge is to really imagine their life. So I can find it quite helpful, actually, just to get into the particularities of what their life must be like. What do I know about them? I know that they live in this place, so I know that they do this kind of work. So you can sort of imagine what that's like. I know that they've got these problems or something. You might sort of be able to sort of have a sense of what that longing in their life is like, what that obstacles that meets, what that looks like, what the particularities of that are for them. Or we might not have very much, so you might just want to imagine it. You might just want to, in a sense, make it up, just to make them somehow more real for you. Another way to do it that I think can be quite helpful is to take whatever you're experiencing and sort of turn it onto them. So this can be really helpful. I can find this particularly helpful in the meditation practice itself. Say you're in the meditation practice itself and your knees hurt, and you're like, my knees are really painful. You can imagine that this other person experiences physical pain. So the experience of it for yourself, you're like, I can really, for me, that feels really real and a real problem. and I really feel for myself in the sense that I don't want it. Well, I can imagine others in that experience. Other people have physical pain. Some people have probably much more physical. I know lots of people have experience much more physical pain than I do, for example. So I could take that little sense of like just how much I don't like it when my knees hurt to what that must be like for other people perhaps who experience that much worse. Or even like just that sort of wanting to be somewhere else, that sort of unsettled, restless kind of, I want some pleasure, I want some something, that uncomfortable feeling that you might experience a bit more keenly when you stop and meditate. Other people are going to experience that as well. In fact, those things are so universal that everyone will experience something of that. We have it in slightly different ways, but we experience something of that. So that can be quite a good way just to take your direct experience, catch that that's what my experience is like, or I'm in a bit of pain, or I really just want some pleasure, and to turn that to whoever you are focusing on the stage and be like, that's something of their experience as well. They too experience that. Can I wish them to be well in that? Can I wish them to be free of that suffering in their life? So I should probably stop talking and we can meditate. But what I'd like just to sum up, as we're bringing people to mind generally throughout, but particularly necessary in these stages, we are trying to imagine our way into their experience. So we can do that by imagining the particularities of their life. What would that actually look like? What's their life like for them? What do I know of them? What can I just imagine? Even the mundane element, if they get up in the morning, I wonder what they're doing right now, that kind of thing. That's one way. And the second way is to take your own experience as it arrives and work skillfully with that by imagining that being someone else's experience or similar essential elements in this other person's experience. And rather than feeling sorry for yourself, you could feel sorry for them. And I think that's something that, to bring it back to my mum in hospital, that's something that she was sort of doing something of. She was very aware of the other people around her in the hospital who were in a much worse situation than she was. And in doing so, that seemed to contribute to kind of opening her up somewhat. And I think that sort of open, positive experience has got to be helpful, especially when you're having a difficult time yourself. So let's meditate. I'll lead us through the stages of the Metta Bhavana, and I'll remind us what each of those are as we get to them. And let's have a go at bringing other people more centrally into our mind. So again, taking a moment to just tune back in with the direct experience of your body. You might scan through the areas that we focused on earlier. Noticing if you've picked up any tension again, feeling your way into that and allowing it to settle and soften. stretch out through the whole of your body. Whilst also becoming particularly aware, focusing your awareness in the area of the heart and the belly. The Metta Bhavana. In the first stage, remaining aware of your experience. And wishing yourself well, so you may drop in any of the phrases. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be free from suffering. May I make progress. And just connecting with that deep wish that's so very human. If your mind goes off, it's very natural. Just start again with an awareness of sensation in the body. Then you could drop in a phrase and connect with that wish. Second stage, bring a good friend to mind. However you need to, cultivating a sense of them, of their presence. And noticing what that feels like, what's that like in the heart, in the belly. Just looking for a response. They too want to be well. They want to be happy. They don't want to suffer. And they want to make progress in their lives. See if you can connect with a wish for that for them. Bringing to mind a neutral person, someone you probably wouldn't think about very often. Just the first person that comes into your mind now is fine. Seeing if you can get interested in them, in their life. In their desire to be happy and not to suffer. Dropping in the phrases and just watching how they land. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. May you make progress. You might imagine they're in a specific situation. Whatever you need to do to make their life feel more real. Fourth stage, bringing an enemy to mind. Just the first person who comes to mind, who you have some even subtle recoil from. See if you can get underneath your own response to them, your own reaction. And imagine their life. In which they too want to be happy and don't want to suffer. Seeing if you can really mean the phrases as you say them to them. And watch your response to what that feels like. Final stage, bringing to mind yourself and the friend, the neutral person and the enemy. You might imagine the four of you sat together. Just see if you can wish all of you as well as everyone else, equalizing the well-wishing towards all four. to include more and more people. You might imagine it as a sphere just opening up to include people who are closer to you and ever further away. And any person that springs into your mind, wishing them well. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings make progress. Connecting with this shared wish of the living. Now letting go of any effort that you're making. And again, just soaking up the momentum of the meditation just by sitting still and stopping. Okay, so we'll just take a few minutes break, just take a 3-minute break, and it's an opportunity just to sit quietly, or to stretch your legs or just if you need, and also use it as a moment to write any questions that you've got in the chat box. That'd be really helpful for me so that I can see what you've got to say. And then I'll answer some of them in a sec. So yeah, anything that's on your mind about meditation, perhaps anything that wasn't so clear to you in what I was saying just now, and then I'll answer some of them in a sec. So I'll see you in about 3 minutes. Hello again. So yes, so do so I've got a few minutes now to answer some questions. So if you've got any, then do put them in the chat box. I know that Jahit's got one, so I'm gonna let him ask me his question, and then we'll go from there.
Firstly, I want to say I really appreciated what you said about using your own experience imaginatively and kind of, I suppose, almost projecting it onto the other person, and that really helped in the third stage, because I can get a little bit distracted because it's easy to get bored then. But I suppose my question really is about the fourth stage, so the enemy stage. I think one of the things that can happen is I can reach a limit with my metta, or I can slip into ill will. And so how to avoid those two things, and especially with the limit to the metta, how I can approach that, or how we can approach that with kindness to ourselves as well as kindness to that person. And then when that goes into the final stage, so we're equalising the metta, how best to do that if actually it feels quite small for one person and quite big for somebody else.
Okay.
So there's quite a few questions.
There's a few questions in there. So you're saying you found turning your own experience onto someone else helpful.
Yeah.
And you were saying in terms of the fourth stage, so the enemy, you were saying correct me if I'm wrong, so you were saying it can feel like there's a limit to how you can empathise.
Yeah.
And also it can easily slip into ill will itself. Maybe I'll deal with the last stage question in a sec. But it can be really hard, can't it? This to actually really feel loving towards somebody who has maybe hurt us, or we just really innately against. It can be quite a lot of sort of work. And in practicing the Metta Bhavana regularly, quite often I've had one person that's just stayed in that stage for a really long time, and it can feel like I'm sort of not quite getting anywhere with it, and I'll sort of keep bringing them to mind, and it keeps being difficult, and it feels like pushing a boulder uphill. And then I might see that person and realise that actually my relationships to them has changed quite a lot. So I can sort of one can sort of feel the effects without it necessarily sort of coming alive in the meditation. Yes, I guess there's a sort of question about mindfulness and just staying aware in the meditation, noticing if you go off into ill will, into a story of that. It's quite easy, like I've had this thing where in that stage, sometimes I'll come into it, not be feeling very much at all. So I'll slightly try and remind myself why I don't like them. And then I'll get stuck in the story about why I don't like them, and then I'm really just not liking them kind of thing. I'm really... So actually it's, in a way, it's fine to get there and not be feeling very much, and then you can just go straight into trying to imagine them, trying to wish them well. And if you do find yourself rehashing something that's gone on, just try and catch that really quickly, because it's poison to the meditation. It's the complete opposite of what you're trying to do. Very natural that would happen, and you're kind of risking it by doing this stage of the meditation, but really important to catch that and just try and drop that, just try and drop below that to something else. The other side of this stage is that I can sometimes find that this stage is actually in a way easier than the stage before with the neutral person, because there's emotion in it. It's not blank, there's actually emotion in it. And I think this thing of just like, we're just trying to sort of flip that upside down. Mm-hmm. So often the emotion is to do with really not wanting them anywhere near us. It's like we just want to push them away, and they've hurt you and you want to get them back, or you just want them over here. But there's quite a lot of force in that. So I think that this question of just really noticing, actually, in a way, you're quite brought up against your own suffering in that respect. And like, you really don't want this person in your life, and yet there they are, but they're in the same situation. So in that, it's possible to just be like, and you can sort of see that actually they're also going to be experiencing the same kind of painful human thing of just things not going your way. So sometimes actually the extent of the emotion in it can actually help it sort of turn upside down. But it's really tricky, isn't it? Like it's such an experiment, this meditation. You've really got to find your own ways into it. Is that some?
Yeah, totally. And I do really agree with you as well. Sometimes the neutral person is much harder because there isn't anything to get behind. Which is why I liked what you were saying tonight about we're using your direct experience at the moment, kind of imagine that to be theirs, or imagine that they have those same kind of aches and pains, because it is difficult. And I suppose that, like in terms of my question around the last stage, it's, well then how do you equalise those? There's somebody that maybe there's a lot of difficult emotions towards, and then someone that there's not very much towards, and then someone that maybe you really like a lot, and then yourself in the mix, and actually equalising that before you then start to go out to everybody. I suppose this isn't exactly what I do, but I suppose the question could be is, like, do you bring it down to the lowest common, or do you lift it all up? How do you do it so it doesn't feel like such effort to equalise?
Well, I think I quite like the idea of sort of being in a circle together, and I think you can just kind of keep spinning around the circle. There's something about, in a way, we spent lots of time being very specific with the individual people, and I can find it can become slightly more generalised in the sense that there's my friend and I really like them, and you've got a bit of momentum that carries straight on to this neutral person, and so there is a kind of there's a momentum to the meta that can be like, and yeah, and so you're sort of a bit more ready to kind of like someone, and then that can even carry through. So I find it, I think, the first thing that comes to mind is this sense of just like spinning between all of them. There's a momentum that can sort of pick up with that, and sort of trusting that rather than in the individual stage you've got to find a quite intricate way of working or a quite specific way of working out how to sort of come into a relationship with them. But yeah, again, it's spinning plates, isn't it? So I find building momentum of the practice would be my tip.
I like that idea. It kind of reminds me of something you said in the meditation about allowing a sphere to unfold. I don't know if that was the word you used, but in that end, actually, as you're bringing all beings in, just some kind of sphere turning around, and I quite like that energy notion of just going, yeah.
Yeah, I find with the something about the final stage where you've equalised it. So there's already the sense of, in a way, the sense of momentum that's sort of built in this circle as we're just sort of here very much together, and then that momentum can almost then just sort of spin out. And I think it's possible with the last stage for it to get a bit like a bit sort of generalised, of like the world and all the people. And even I think at times I've sort of had a picture of a sort of a map of the world and all the people like in some sort of plasticine kind of animation where all the people are just standing on the different countries and so on. And it's a bit of it's something of that's a bit of a fantasy, isn't it? But I think just actually in reality, if just more and more people are popping into your mind, there's a momentum of metta, and your old science teacher pops into your mind, and the person you saw on the street over there pops in your mind, and an image of somebody you saw in a war zone pops into mind, and in a way you're just allowing that sort of spinning momentum just to continue. And because you're in that mode of metta, hopefully by that point, or there's some momentum of that, you're much more ready for your initial reaction to that person to be one of love. And so in a way, that's why we've had all this time that's built up to it in the meditation, so that now we can sort of let it loose and just let it roll out. So we don't need to be too specific by that point, in a way.
So one of the things I often do is I do imagine that we're sat with either the Buddha or Tara, the two, and exactly as you say, people just come in. And I think what I find really helpful about what you've spoken about tonight is, this is an imaginative practice, isn't it? And actually one of the things that I'm taking is it's about being receptive to your own imagination as a faculty too, and not trying to be too prescriptive around, I know that person in New Zealand, so their face is on the map there, but just imaginatively building a scene or something.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. You're saying it's it's a real test for the imagination, this practice, and I think that because of it can be, if we're feeling a bit unconnected to it, or if we've got into a bit of a routine with this practice, it can feel quite dry, or we might feel like it's a bit like hard work. So I think the main thing would be just to sort of keep light with it, keep the attention rather on making something happening, more on just being like, I wonder what that's like, and I wonder what actually the experience of bringing these people to mind is like, and the results will kind of sort themselves out later, because that gives us a bit more space just to sort of explore rather than feeling like we need to keep doing something. It's a sort of I've been doing this practice for a number of years, and it sort of feels like every time I sort of find a way with it, that will only last for a few meditations maybe, and then I'll need to find another one. Just sort of frustrating, but sort of very creative in a way. I should probably wrap up, because I'm realising that we're approaching the end of our time. So great to digitally see you all, and just a couple of things that I'd really recommend that you do. So the first thing is, if you get something from these classes, whether this is the first one you've been to or whether you've been coming for a while, I'd really encourage you to give and support the LBC. We're very reduced in what we've been able to do, especially in person here, and all of our activities are online. Normally we'd have people sort of holding a bowl and smiling and not asking you directly for money, but giving the option to help support what we're doing and offering these classes for free. I'd really encourage you to sort of feel a part of what we're doing here by giving even just a little bit, just giving what you can to put it behind what we're doing. And secondly, I'd really encourage you to join in with the winter retreat that we're doing. Jarhit and I have just been talking, we're both on the team for the winter retreat that's happening online from the 27th of December to the 1st of January. Normally the winter retreat for the LBC is like the big event of the year, and it happens, well, there's often two happening at the same time, big retreat centres, lots of people, very exciting. And there's something about that time of year to be on retreat, spend time meditating, reflect on the year, that feels really, really valuable. And sadly, we can't have them this year in person, but we can do something really big online. So we've got there's a group of the LBC's top teachers leading this 5-day retreat online, and also there's a number of other events that are running up. We're doing something every day from the 21st through the Christmas period and so on, including a couple of really special things that are happening that we'll be announcing later in the week on the 24th and the 25th. So lots going on over the coming weeks, but especially focusing on the winter retreat from the 27th. And it's also completely free to sign up, and we'll just send you the links you need to come along to as much as you can, ideally all of it, and just really spend some time at the end of the year on retreat, building up to the New Year's Eve, where we'll stay up till midnight and see the new year in true Buddhist fashion. Which, if you've not experienced before, all will be revealed, but it should be fun. So, hopefully see some of you there, and very nice to see you all, and we'll leave it there. So goodbye from me.